Okay, so you were discouraged by this. I don't want you to be
Yes.
discouraged. So,
Okay.
first, tell me kind of what you thought when you saw this.
It just seemed like if you look at this as a whole, it's more like the kids, they're not learning anything. They're just playing around, not doing what they're supposed to. And I understand that I can't watch them all 24/7, but it still kind of stinks to see at every single station, for the most part, from this, it's kind of like, well, did they even get anything out of it? Is it worth doing centers if all they're going to do is say it's boring or not want to do it or play around? I think that was kind of what bummed me out about it.
Okay. Well, for me, I don't want you to be discouraged because honestly, I've told Miss Garrett, I've told a lot of people that you are probably one of the most amazing first year teachers I've ever seen. Because to make stations work like this and to have only 8 redirects or only 5 redirects, like, that's great, okay? And another thing is that you are redirecting them. You're not like being mean to them. You're not like, why are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing? You're like telling them, guiding them, okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So for me, when we talked, you said, I just want to make more efficient use of my time. So for me, the reason that I pulled it out like this is to kind of show you what's going on within the time periods that you're doing. So I was in here for a little over, I was in here for 30 minutes, but I saw the ending of one station, transition, a whole rotation, and then a transition, and then some more, but I didn't put that on here. I just put the
And another
transition.
thing I've noticed on here too, and this is something we've been really working at, and since they're having a hard time getting it, is that transition. Because as you know, I mean, it's a minute 16, like it is taking them. Now the first transition was pretty good because it was like, but as we kept going, the transitions got longer and longer.
Right.
And that's something I noticed as well.
Okay, so I'm in complete agreement with you, and I like that you noticed that on here because that is something that I noticed as well. My transitions for my stations, they have a set amount of time, and if they don't achieve that set amount of time, then there's consequences for that, right? So, but that's not that you don't have to do it that way. So, I wanted to point out some things that are not on here that I did write down. Part of your iPad station thing right here, which I didn't write down, is that Mr. Roberto. I don't feel like he was very interested in this at all, and I think that he probably is that way about a lot of things. And one thing that you did was you went from technology to technology. And so if he wasn't interested in iPads, he's definitely not going to be interested in Smartboard. And so maybe take your technologies and not make them back to back.
Right.
I mean, that's just...
No, yeah, I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I've never realized.
Because some kids don't like technology. As much as we push it, some kids don't like technology.
Right.
And so that's just my suggestion. And that might help with your pulling out of some of these things. And one station, you redirected them. They were confused on what to do. You redirected them, and then they got busy on what they were supposed to do. And I thought that was great. I loved that you were walking around the classroom. Like, you were engaged just as much as they were engaged. You were encouraging them, redirecting them. And redirects are not bad things. They're great things. So don't feel discouraged about that. Another thing is you said a minute ago, you said, well, is it even worth it? Are they really getting anything out of it? I think they are. I think they're getting a lot out of it. And just because somebody's noisy doesn't mean that they're not working. So that's all about your procedures. Is that what you want? What is your expectation for their station?
Right. And I tell them, before we get started, I have my voice scale up there that says, this is what you're supposed to be on. I let them know you're at a low, you're at like a, what do I call it, a small group voice, which they know is not whispering, but it's not loud. It's like this right here.
Okay.
And I tell them, if I have to get on to you more than 3 times as a whole class group, we shut it down.
Right.
And we have had to go to straight busy work because there's been 3 times they've gone out of hand. We've had to just shut it down.
Awesome.
And I know as this kind of backtracks a little bit, but for me walking around the room, my very first time doing centers, I tried to sit back here and do a small group because that's really the only time I can do a small group.
Mhm.
But then I realized with me sitting right here, even with just 2 kids, if I'm not walking around, as kids do,
Mhm.
they will not do that work.
Right.
Some of them, like my teacher's pets and stuff, yes, they'll do it. But for
Yeah.
the most part, they'll just play around, and so I had to learn the hard way. Like I cannot sit down
Right.
because they'll play around.
Mhm.
So that was frustrating for me because I wanted to use the centers as a time for me to pull kids, and I can pull kids one-on-one, but I don't have enough time to do every single kid one-on-one in the time frame that I'm given.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I can do centers. I can come back here, pull like 3, 4 kids at a time. This can be a center
Mhm.
with me, and that's how I originally had done it.
Right.
This was a center with me, and we tried to work on stuff, but I was so busy trying to redirect the kids out there that these kids probably got nothing out of it.
Okay.
So that was something that I've had to adjust, and it's been hard because if I'm not doing centers, then I'm doing a whole group, and the only time I get to pull them is like if we're doing a grade or something that they're doing at their desk.
So, one thing that kind of came to my mind as I was going over this stuff to get prepared for meeting with you is that I know we've been reading Daily 5,
Mhm.
okay? And so Daily 5 focused for math is the Daily 3,
Mhm.
and I've been really working hard to do implementation of the Daily 3. So that's math with a partner, math by yourself, and math writing.
Mhm.
So, and the way the Daily 5 works is you introduce one, they get it, you move on, introduce them the next one, right?
Mhm.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm taking everything that you're saying into consideration,
Mhm.
and your goal really is you want to do small group back here.
Mhm.
Okay, so we need to get there
Mhm.
because I think you're right. That's the way that you're going to really hit those kids that need to be
Mhm.
doing it. So, with that being said, so Daily 3 in mind, we want our goal to be centers that you can pull kids, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so these are just all ideas that are flowing through my head right now. So
Mhm.
what do you think we need to do? What do you want to do next?
I don't know, because like with the Daily 3, I didn't really know what the Daily 3 was until we read it, and I feel like even though I've got more than just the 3 centers, I feel like I'm still implementing those
Mhm.
because as centers I have kids doing things. Yes, they're in a group, but they are doing, it has to be them.
Right.
And I have them writing things, so I'm doing the math facts, I'm doing the self, but then there's also groups that they have to work together as a group,
Mhm.
like the smart board group we just did. I don't know if you were here for, yeah, you were here for the smart board. They don't do it as a group, they gotta
Mhm.
take turns.
Mhm.
So I feel like I'm somewhat implementing the Daily 3.
Okay.
But what was the other thing we said? Using it as a small group.
Mhm.
I honestly don't know what I could do for this back here, and I think that's why I'm so lost on it because ever since that first time, I have not done it since.
Okay.
I did do it actually. No, I did do it one time. We were doing a scoot, a whole classroom scoot. So the whole class was involved. They were still moving around, and I was able to pull kids back 2 at a time.
Mhm.
And I just said, show me what you know. So
Mhm.
it wasn't me like eye contact the whole time going, how do you do this? Tell me about it. It was, I had to change this back here to, I can't sit there and focus my 100% on you. I've got to say, show me what you know, then come back to what we don't know, and then let's go over it.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I did a couple of times, and that worked better.
Mhm.
But it's still not as effective as what I want. And I don't know if what I want is even something that could be not done, but realistic for a classroom, because this is my first time. So, like, I'm wanting, like, 4 kids, and I want to be, let's talk about it. Kind of like a guided reading group,
Mhm.
where you're like, let's read it together. Let's talk about it all together. I feel like that's what I want, but is that realistic in this setting?
Yes, it is absolutely realistic in the setting. And so there is something called guided math, which is the same thing as guided reading. And it's just you take the skills that you're working on and you do small group activities back
Mhm.
here. Before you can pull small groups, though, you have to get your stations to where they know exactly what they're doing. So
Mhm.
for me personally, when I first started doing stations, I was thrown into it my first year, and it was terrible, and I hated it.
Mhm.
But then my second year, it was a lot easier because I had gotten the hang of it, and there was no one there kind of telling me what to do my first year. So,
Mhm.
but you get an activity that they know how to do pretty well,
Mhm.
a game or a paper that they've already done or something like that, but an activity that continues to go. So, for example, right now we're working on division, and so I have this game, and it looks like this. And they use dice,
Mhm.
and they roll the dice. They roll the dice to get them the numbers,
Mhm.
and they use a whiteboard marker, and both partners have to do it.
Mhm.
But they know how to do this game,
Right.
so I can give it to 7 pairs of kids.
Mhm.
So I have 14 kids that are occupied,
Mhm.
and I can pull the remaining kids back to my table and say, okay, so this is the skill that we're working on right now. Like, what's the activity that I want to do back here?
Right.
Okay. But the first thing that you have to do is get these kids to understand that this is work time. Like,
Mhm.
this is not playtime. And you're doing a great job at that.
Mhm.
That's what this is.
Mhm.
Okay. So we need to get this more narrowed down so that you can pull small groups.
And I think for me, I have to come out of my own head for the groups, because for me, the groups is you don't necessarily be at the table group, but I feel like since there's 5 table groups, there needs to be 5 centers, and I don't want to do now. Table 4 is usually always my iPads. They're always on, and they've got just a list of games that they can play.
Okay.
But for me, it's like I feel like I can't give them the exact same thing they've done before, because with these kids, at least that I've noticed, if I try to do the same thing over again, we've already done this, gone. Their attention, they like so.
Okay.
I want to do things that are repetitive, but if I give them the exact same thing they've done before, they'll go, oh, we've already done it. We didn't do it for Gray. Why are we doing it now?
Okay.
So that's my only concern. And I think I need to get more out of my head. Say a group does not have to be 5 groups at tables. I can just say, hey, pair up, go throughout the room. And I need to give that option, because I haven't the only thing that they know is you're at your table group, you get what was like 10-15 minutes, then you switch. I need to get out of my head and say, okay, I'll pair you up, go around the room, do this with,
Well, and that's why I brought up Daily 3,
Mhm.
because with Daily 3, you do math by yourself until you've got it, and then you can move on to adding math with partner, math. But it doesn't have to be, you're absolutely right, it doesn't have to be 5 groups. It can be 1 group and you pull 5 kids. It can be 2 groups and you pull 5 kids. Or it can be 2 groups and you pull 2 kids. That is completely up to you. That's how you want to do it. Okay? So,
because I kill myself trying to get 5 different things, or 4 different things, because iPads, 4 different things every other day when I want to do centers, and I'm like, why am I doing 4 different things, when I could just do 2 groups and pair them off? And but for some reason, I guess because this is my first year, and this is the only reason I'm doing it like this is because this is exactly what I saw my student teacher do.
right, okay.
And I was like, this works. They got it, but they're 5th grade, so they know, like they have a higher, expectation. Not that, but you know what I mean. So I feel like I've got to pull away from what I've seen and go into like new territory. But okay, we haven't done this, but I'm worried my kids are really good with change, as most kids are. So I'm worried if I switch and do something else that they're gonna be so freaked out about the change that it's not gonna be effective.
Okay.
That's another fear I've got too.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you saying is you don't really want to change what you're doing, but you do want to change what you're doing.
Right. I want to change to see if it works, because I would love to. If it's gonna change and it's gonna work for me to pull small groups, I want to do it. It's the fear of the change, like you put. It's stepping, because I don't like change either.
Right.
We've got it set in motion. We've been doing this for weeks now. Why change it? Why upset the balance? But if I need to pull small groups and they are needing to be more and more redirected, then something has to change.
Right. And do you, okay, this was my observation. Do you feel like this? Do you feel like this is honest or no?
I mean, I feel like it's partly, because I know, like, for some, I can tell you who this kid is. I can tell you who this kid is. I feel like this is more of those ones that are acting out, because that's just how they are.
Okay.
Like, for the most part, I've got really good kids, but obviously every class has those couple of kids that just act out, they talk, they say, this is boring.
Okay.
And I feel like this is more of those kids, but it's still, they need to be, regardless of who they are, they need to be working on this.
Right.
So,
Okay. I'm hearing what you're saying, that these are some kids that you're having difficulties with. And so I totally get that,
Mhm.
because I have these kids too in my classroom.
these would be the ones that I would want to pull.
Right. Exactly.
Honestly.
Well, and if you have these other kids working, you know, you can. Okay,
Mhm.
so you've tried where you have the whole class doing an activity,
Mhm.
and you've pulled kids,
Mhm.
and that worked okay?
It did a little bit, yeah. When on the scoot, they freak out if they miss one, because I tell them, like, it's okay if you miss one. Like, we go do a rotation and you have to go back. So the hard part, the only thing I would say negatively about that is when I sent them back, and let's say they're on 14 and they had to switch to 15, but then maybe they missed 15 and 16 and they had to go find like the next one they were on.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard for them, trying to get back where they were, because there had been like 3 or 4 rotations.
Okay.
So that was really the only issue with pulling for like that scoot activity.
Okay. So would you want to try something like that again? And because I would really, just personally, for me, I think you're going to get the most out of your teaching. They're going to get the most out of your teaching
Mm-hmm.
if you can pull small groups.
I really wouldn't mind trying to do a game where they paired off and we're just sitting around the room playing a game back and forth.
Okay.
That was something that was pulling their information that, you know, like right now we're doing 2-digit by 1-digit. So having something like that, that's small, they can sit down and do together. I can pair people who are not going to talk to each other like that, you know, too much. And then I can say, hey, this group, put your stuff down, come to me.
Mm-hmm.
But have everybody working on the same thing, that would be really,
Okay.
I would think that would work.
Okay. Do you want to try that the next time I come and watch you?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to try that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Because then that way you would be the first one to see, and we could see what the difference is between this time and
Okay.
that time.
Another thing is, as a first year teacher, I'm hearing you say this a lot without actually saying it. It's hard for us to release control, even as a veteran teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for us to release control and trust that the kids are going to do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
A
I
lot
trust
of,
some of them.
yeah,
but-
and a lot of times that's the whole thing, is that we are not trusting them to do what they should do, and so they feed off that. They know. But I would really like for them. I'd like to see something like that, where you pull a couple of kids and I can help you set up maybe some expectations or whatever you need me to help you set up for that.
Okay.
I have a good activity for this too,
Okay.
if you want something for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Does that sound like it'll be helpful?
Yeah, it does, because honestly, tomorrow, feel free to edit this out if you don't want them to notice tomorrow. But tomorrow I really want to do centers, which it's already, you know, late, and I don't want to stay here and do center.
Okay.
So, but well, I was thinking about this too. Not just me not want to stay here. I knew I was doing centers today, and I've looked online, but then I can't come up with
Right.
4 centers every time.
Right.
So I would
And
love.
that's why I want you to. I know that you said that you did a repeat thing before, but I'm going to show you an activity. I have an activity in mind, and I'm going to show it to you. I'll bring it in the morning,
Okay.
and I'm going to show it to you. And the kids like it, so, and it can be done a couple of different ways, so you can continue to use it. It still works on the skill, and they're probably not going to get bored with it. I mean, they might get bored with it. I don't know. Your kids, right. So, I mean, we can try it. I have it. You want me to bring this back tomorrow?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll bring this to you in the morning,
Okay.
and I'll show you some other stuff too. So when I first started teaching, I taught first grade,
Mhm.
and the girl who kind of showed me what stations were, she had a stack of blank sheets of paper, and she would write out like a math problem, and then she would leave blanks in it where
Mhm.
you had to add in the numbers, and the kids would put the numbers in. So that station is never ending.
Mhm.
Like, they're constantly doing the same word problem with different numbers, so they have to complete it, right?
Mhm.
So that's what she would do. Every morning she would come in and just jot out like different problems that we're working on the same skill. So like, we're working on fractions. So I would come up with something just out of my head, or maybe it's something that you've worked on a CBA or in your book or
Mhm.
whatever, and you just pull that. So it doesn't have to be something from TPT. It doesn't have to be something from Pinterest.
Right.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
You know, because I know you're exhausted from pulling stations, because that's exhausting to me
Mhm.
too. So let me pull this game for you. I'll do that in the morning. I'll have it for you when I come in the morning, and I'll
Mhm.
show you how to play it, what to do.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have to do anything in the morning, so I'm usually here by 6:50ish.
Okay.
In the morning.
Okay. So I'll come and show you that.
But you don't have to be there that
No.
early. But
Well, I try to be here at that time. It doesn't always happen. So I'm going to show you that. So we'll meet tomorrow, which will be great.
Right. Because I just need something that's not as taxing on me, because I like I've told you, I've been here till 7:30 trying to do centers, and then I come in, I'm like, why am I even doing centers? Because some of them are just like, boo, and they're not even, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, I feel
So,
it.
I don't want to have, and for me, I know it sounds not guilty. I know it sounds selfish, but like I'm sick and tired of doing floor centers. You know, like I can have some do an iPad, sure, because that's not hard to set up. But those other centers, I need something else. I need to be doing something else.
Okay, another question I have for you is, although you tell your students what their expectation is, do you have it written down somewhere?
Yeah, we did have class rules written up, like what we're doing, and then they got accidentally torn. I don't know how. They were up there, and then they got torn, and then I just had to put them back up.
Okay, well,
That's on me.
when we're done here, I want you to come to my classroom, and I want to show you something.
Okay.
You don't have to do it this way, but I just want to show you something.
Okay.
Okay? Because I have, what are my expectations for everything? We have class rules too, but I also have, what do I expect you to do when you're doing AM? What do I expect you to do when you line up? What do I expect you to do in the hallway? What do I expect you to do when we're sitting in our seat work? What do I expect you to do in stations? So they know in stations, this is how I'm supposed to act. And then you can say, look at that anchor chart. Are those the expectations that I have for you? That way that they have a visual, but they've also heard it, because I can do auditory, but not everybody can do auditory, right?
Right.
So, come with me to my room, and then I'll get this stuff for you tomorrow morning. I'll have it for you in the morning, and then I'll come and watch you. Do you want me to try to come in the morning, or do you want me to?
Mornings are better, just because by the afternoon, that second class is very done, and it's already hard enough to get them to do what they need to do.
Okay.
So probably morning, if you could do
What
morning.
time because we have, what time is y'all's lunch?
11:30.
And that's when-
We're 10:30 to 11:30 is my last hour with my morning class, and I think that's your conference.
That's our conference, yeah.
But y'all have POCs tomorrow. Now, I don't know what we're doing. I think it's a data dig, but if you ask, I mean, you could probably come for like the last 30 minutes. I mean, if you ask, I don't know. I'm not saying you can, but
I'll ask about
if
that.
not,
If not, I don't know, because it really does.
yeah, you could ask Friar Center Finney, but that would be really last minute, and I don't know if they'd be able to do it.
I'll email Mr. Dare and see if I can come at some point in the morning.
Yeah, just stress it. It's like, you're like, hey, I really need.
Yeah, I really need to. If not, then I can definitely get Miss Applewhite to come in the afternoon.
Right, and that's, if we have to in the afternoon, that's fine. They're just gonna be, because I know this is in the afternoon, and when I first saw this, I knew, I was like, for one, this is the afternoon class, and I know this sounds bad, but my afternoon class, when we get back from recess, they are done.
Mine are too.
You know, I'm sure, I'm sure that's for everybody, so trying to do centers in the afternoon with them is,
Another thing though is, if you can do it with your afternoon class, you know you can do it with your morning class.
like, when I saw it, I was like, I wish you'd see my morning
I
class,
know,
because they
I
were like
know,
so much better.
I know. And I wrote down so many good things, but I knew, because you talked about, in this first meeting, you talked about how you wanted to make sure that
Time,
we looked at time
definitely.
and efficiency, and so I'm actually really glad that I got to see this, and I'm glad that I got to kind of map this out, and now we can revamp it a little bit, and then
Right.
you can see how it's done.
Right.
Okay?
Definitely.
We're good.
We're good. Oh my God, Charlie's watching my foot. Sorry.
Do you feel better about this?
Yes.
I don't want you to be discouraged.
Right.
At all.
Well, me, I'm perfectionist.
Oh.
That's just how I am. I'm sure most teachers are because that's why we're there. We're like, ooh. And so anytime I see like the redirect, for me the word redirect's like they're not doing what they're supposed to do. That's bad. That looks bad. They're not getting what they're done. Blah. So when I see like 8 redirects, I'm like, oh my Lord. That means they're not doing what they're supposed to do. I keep having to tell them to do, and it obviously means it's not working because I've had to do it more than once. So when I saw like that many redirects, I was just like, why? Like that just, you know.
Well, and I think you're right. This was one student. This right here was one student.
Yeah, because I can tell you who that student is.
And this right here was one student as well. So, I mean.
For me, I'm thinking 8 different kids. 6 different kids at 6 different times. Like, that's how I just originally, like, immediately, I was like, what?
Yeah, no. This was just as many, this was how many you did overall for that particular station. So, but let's look at some things at my classroom, and I'll bring you this thing tomorrow, and then we'll try to do it tomorrow.
I'm not gonna plan centers now, so if you bring, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
I'm really not. I'll let you
don't
do
do
it.
it. I'll
Because honestly, that makes me feel good. Because I'm like, I ain't gotta do centers right now. I'm like real happy because I was gonna stay till like 7:30
No,
to do
don't do
centers.
that.
So
now
saving
you're
me.
okay.
Thank you.
You're okay with
Yes.
partners.
Yes.
Okay, because this is gonna be
Good.
the same activity for all of your kids. They're gonna be in partners though.
We're gonna fingers crossed.
It'll work. It'll
Okay.
work. I promise.
I mean, I trust you. I know you done it. You good. And I'm not saying I don't trust you. I'm not trusting you.
I know.
And like you said, we've got to give back control over. And I thought I'd be really good. Like, oh yeah, no, not with some of them. I would let some of them teach my class because some of them.
I hear you. And those are the kids who need you to say, "I trust you." So, yeah. It's nice. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.